Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, and a big hello to Stephen Daly in Portland, who says, "Hi Neil, I listen to your show every day and loved your coverage in Phoenix, but also for giving Portland a shout out too and the great work they're doing in their tech community." And he also went on to say he's been listening to the show for 6 months and he never gave it a thought what I actually did for a living. And it was only when he recently saw a couple of tweets about writing blog posts for businesses that the penny dropped. Stephen, it appears I failed. I was hoping the name of the show, Tech Blog Writer, would give the game away. But Stephen, you are forgiven, as you did say, that if you knew anyone looking for freelance tech blogs or ghostwritten thought leadership posts, and even starting their own podcast, he will send them my way. So, Stephen, I'm going to stand up from my podcast chair and salute you, my friend. You probably heard my voice go a little bit far away there, because I did actually stand up and salute you. I wasn't just making it up. So, a big thank you, my friend, for being so generous and selfless. But more than anything, I hope you continue to listen to this show. And speaking of which, I've got a great guest that I'm excited to get on today called Chris Cabrera. And he's the CEO of Xactly, and also the author of Game the Plan. And Xactly makes sales performance management software and are used by some of the biggest brands in the world, such as Salesforce, Hyatt Hotels, and Louis Vuitton. And that's just a couple off the top of my head. But he and the company have a vision to help companies unleash human potential so they can maximise company performance with a hint of tech maybe as well. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to California so we can speak with Chris Cabrera, the CEO of Xactly, who's going to tell us all about that vision and how they're using technology. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so happy to be here. My name is Chris Cabrera, and I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Xactly Corporation. And Xactly is in the sales performance management space, and our roots really came from the compensation management, paying salespeople their commissions.
Now, Xactly is famous for making sales performance management, SPM, to people out there, and it's used by some massive brands such as Salesforce, Hyatt Hotels, and Louis Vuitton, just to name but a few. But can you just help everyone listening get on that same page and tell them a little bit more about exactly what Xactly is and also what makes you guys unique?
Yeah, the nice thing about Xactly is there's probably not a company in the world or on the planet that doesn't need our stuff, because every company sells something. It could be a service, could be a widget. Somewhere in the organization are people who are motivated to do things, and those things could be make more phone calls, sell more things, provide better services, show up to work on time, and all those motivational things. Companies are finding that the human nature is if you dangle a carrot and give some incentives to do those things, you can drive better performance from your employee base. And so what we do is we just go into every type of company across, you mentioned some of them, but we've got companies that are in just about every vertical in the world, and we help them identify people in their organization that they want to incentivize to do things better or differently or quicker, or there's a plethora of ways that people want to incent people, and our software allows for that to happen. And so our customers drive higher productivity out of their sales teams. We've got numbers that show 40% more productive than people that don't use these types of systems, higher profit margins, things like that.
Now, organisations have traditionally used variable compensation and incentives to help drive growth across their sales teams, but there are a new wave of businesses that are recognising the value of rolling out incentive compensation beyond sales, and in turn, they're seeing a powerful role that incentive compensation can play to actually increase productivity, revenue, and also the culture of engagement. But can you share your unique point of view and where the industry is heading, in your opinion, and how you genuinely believe that there's been this huge missed opportunity for incentives, not only the value that they provide to employees, but also how they can be applied to shape behaviours and motivations, and how that can actually impact a company's bottom line?
Yeah, I mean, I think that everyone knows the classic, pay commissions to salespeople and they're coin operated and so you find almost every company is paying 30% of the population, roughly, there's the people that are on quotas and sell stuff. And they're paying them some type of compensation. But I think more and more, as you said, as companies are realizing how competitive the market is and how much incentives can help drive better performance across every type of employee, we're seeing companies that are paying, instead of 30% of their population, they're paying 100% of their population. Now, those other 70% might be getting some type of an MBO or a bonus. It's not a straight commission. It's not necessarily you sell this widget and you get 2% or 5%. But the beautiful thing about a software like ours is that you can incentivize any type of behavior. As I said, you could be incentivizing the receptionist at the front desk to show up on time and dress appropriately and smile when they greet the people coming in, and those could be MBOs that at the end of each quarter the manager sits down and says, yeah, we think you did this about 80%, and so you're going to get 80% of this bonus. We see companies like trucking companies that are delivering perishable goods. They're literally incentivizing truck drivers to deliver the load within a certain window. If they arrive too early, that likely means they were speeding and they get tickets and insurance rates go up. If they're too late, well, obviously the perishables perish, and that's a bad thing. We work with governments that are paying, postal service workers that are not even employees of the government. They're just hanging a shingle somewhere, in remote locations and saying, we accept, we sell stamps and we accept mail. Well, to the government, that looks like a salesperson, right? But it's not at all what you'd typically think of. I think you mentioned, Hyatt earlier. Yeah. Every wedding planner, thousands of wedding planners throughout the world at Hyatt. If you walk into one of them and talk to them about setting up your wedding, every choice that you make, from the wedding cake to the venue to the hors d'oeuvres, those people are being incentivized to provide you the best options and the options that will make sure you have a great event. So you're absolutely right. Compensation is changing dramatically in the world today, and companies that are figuring it out are embracing it beyond just salespeople. So they're automating salespeople and then they're spreading it throughout the rest of their company. And what we see is that companies that do that perform at much higher rates and have higher profitability than companies who don't.
So can you also tell me a little bit more about why you think we're entering this new era now, where companies will actually need to think about compensating people completely different, and maybe share a few examples that highlight why this trend is becoming a real game changer for businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think the world is just becoming so competitive, and the market for talent is becoming so competitive that, think about it, if you're in an industry and you're paying the old-fashioned way and you're, doing this on some spreadsheet, and you give no visibility to your salespeople and you pay them, 30 or 45 days in arrears, and your competitor is in the market with a whiz-bang tool like an Xactly that's giving them daily and hourly visibility on how they're doing, to allowing you to, incentivize them in better and different and more meaningful ways. It's providing this incredible real-time visibility. Reps are going to say, why do I want to go, get paid late and inaccurately and, be frustrated when I can go this way? And so we have seen companies where they're losing employees to their competitors who are using the modern tools like Xactly, and that's a real problem. And so not only is there the inherent benefits of paying differently and driving higher performance, but you could begin to see turnover and losing your sales team if you're not kind of, coming into the modern era and you're still using technology. Let's face it, was designed in the 70s. These spreadsheets are wonderful, but they were not designed to manage a sales team of, 5 people, let alone 500 or 5,000. You can imagine, how poorly it works in those kind of environments.
And Xactly has also been recently named in SPM in the Gartner Magic Quadrant report, which has got to make you guys feel incredibly proud. But can you tell me more about how that same report highlights that SPMs save organisations 3 to 5% in compensation expenses?
Yeah, we're very pleased with our positioning. It's the 6th time in a row that we've been in that leadership part of the Magic Quadrant. And I think it's really just a recognition of, we have over 1,600 customers. You mentioned a number of them. Our customers are household names that everybody has heard of and used, and retail outlets like you mentioned, Louis Vuitton and others. But they're also mom and pop, small companies that people haven't heard of that might be only paying 15 or 20 people. And so, I think the second part of your question, what Gartner has figured out, and they've been tracking this for many, many years, is companies who use basically these old spreadsheet-based systems have an inherent error threshold that is untenable. And so all the data suggests that these manual spreadsheet-based systems have a up to 10% known error rate. So think about that for a second. Imagine that you're paying 200 people, which is not a humongous sales force, and you're paying them $50,000 or $100,000 of variable compensation. That's a $10 to $20 million cost center. And if you have up to 10% known error rate, that's a real problem. Now, some might argue, hey, those errors are in our favor and the reps' favor, so it comes out in the wash. But that's not really true, because the reps in these error-laden systems, they act like little auditors, and they spend an inordinate amount of their time trying to find all the errors, and they report the errors generally that are not in their favor. When they find errors that are in their favor, they just assume the system was smarter than them, and they don't report those, obviously. And so these error rates get compounded in these manual systems. And I think what Gartner's talking about is just simply automation for automation's sake. You're going to see a dramatic decrease in errors and a dramatic decrease in the overall comp that you're spending. But in actual fact, I think that's the smallest benefit of these kind of systems. The bigger benefit is using compensation in new and different and more meaningful ways that get those 200 people out of bed in the morning and get them to sell, French fries with the hamburger, or, cross-sell or upsell or discount less, or kind of get them to make 2 more calls a day. That's going to have a much bigger impact on the business in reality than even just the savings of the error rates.
And I think it is worth highlighting that Xactly has also enjoyed incredible success and was acquired by Vista Equity Partners for $564 million last year. But I'm fascinated by the stories behind that journey to success. But can you tell me more about that interesting funding story behind Xactly?
Yeah, so, we founded the company in 2005, and we had a very nice run up to the IPO, which took place in 2015. And during that 10-year, period, we raised about $86 million. And then we took the company public. And one of the real exciting things about going on the NYSE and ringing the bell and taking the company public was we had built 10 years of a company predominantly in the ICM space, which is the incentive compensation management space. So it's mostly what we've been talking about, right? It's the specific compensation piece of the larger space, which is SPM. And we really wanted to and believe that the SPM market, which includes things like territory and quota management and sales planning and some of the other ancillary areas, it's not just the commission piece. We really believed that, we needed to be in that broader space because our customers were demanding it. We took the company public with the intention of having this, public market currency that we could then go do some acquisitions. The reality didn't play out exactly like that. We were public for 2 years. We made our numbers every quarter, but some of our VCs didn't sell. They were too excited about the future of the company, so they held on, which meant we didn't have the float that we needed to have that currency. And so we really weren't in a position to do those acquisitions. And so when Vista came along, part of their value that got me excited was them saying, we agree with you, Chris. We believe that the value is in the broader SPM story, not just ICM. And we want to take you private, give you whatever money you need to go buy and acquire these other technologies, as well as building out more. And let's go do that. And that's exactly how it's played out. So we've been part of the Vista flag for, I think, 15, 16 months now. We've done 3 acquisitions in that time frame, and all those acquisitions have allowed us to build out this better story so we can go to our customers and say, hey, you've been using us for 10 years doing comp and we're great and we love you, but you've been also asking us to do territory and quota management and sales planning and, some sales coaching stuff and broader, data usage and benchmarking. And now we do all that. And so it's a much, much bigger story, and it allows us to go back to those 1,600 customers with a much broader offering to kind of expand the footprint that we have within that base.
Now, as this is a tech podcast as well, I feel I must point out that last year Xactly acquired Ops Panda. So can you tell me more about that move and how it's actually going to help you strengthen your artificial intelligence capabilities for enterprise sales performance management portfolio?
Yeah, so the Ops Panda acquisition was very, very important to us. It was very strategic. They had been doing a great job. They invested a lot of money in building some very cool technologies around sales planning. Because of the nature of what we do, right, we have billions and billions of transactional data that go through our systems every year across, thousands of companies across the globe. And so this gave us the opportunity to add another chunk of data into this giant data set. And we aggregate and anonymize all that data and allow our customers to use that data for benchmarking purposes, to see how they stack up against their peers, not against a specific peer company, but against a group of peers, maybe by industry or size or public or private or some combination of those things. And so that acquisition did two things. It added to the data, as you suggested, which is really helping us in our broader benchmarking and AI story, but it also built out more of this SPM story that we've been talking about.
So what is next for Xactly? Can you tell me a little bit more about the road ahead and how you're going to continue to leverage technology to solve real problems for businesses?
Yeah, so I think the future looks very bright for Xactly. We just came off we're on a fiscal year, so we just a few days ago finished our fiscal year. The best year we've ever had, high growth, added lots and lots of customers. We're really seeing this broader SPM story take hold. And so I think at this point, with the acquisitions we've done, we really have the platform that is unlike any other in the marketplace. There's literally no other company that's doing this broad SPM, but SPM only focus. And so we really have no competition. And when you add the data and the AI stuff to it, I think we are really in an opportunity right now to make hay, because amazingly, even though, I've been in this space about 20 years, still the vast majority of companies have not woken up to this yet and are using spreadsheets to do this. And so as we go into companies and help educate them on why they literally can't afford not to do these kinds of technologies, it's a big, giant greenfield opportunity for us. So we're pretty excited about the future, and we think we have from a technology standpoint, we have the suite that companies need and want. And so now it's more an execution play for the next couple of years.
Well, before I let you go, one other area that I think I must talk about that I should have mentioned earlier possibly is that Xactly also has a sales rep attrition algorithm that actually empowers enterprise companies to transform how they message sales performance with comprehensive data-derived insights that also offer unparalleled functionality. Can you expand on those capabilities, which include integration, I think I'm right in saying this, with the Microsoft CRM and a new data visualization capes to actually drive rep behavior?
That's right, and that's a great question. First off, we do have connectivity with all the major CRM players, and so we don't compete in any way with Microsoft CRM or Salesforce. We integrate directly with those applications. And I think you mentioned Salesforce, for example, was our first customer, all those years ago, and it's today one of our largest customers. But the data piece that we've touched on a little bit here is really, really important part of the story, because one thing about compensation in all of its forms is companies come to us and want to automate, but then they quickly realize, hey, you guys are like the experts, and not only are you the comp experts, but you have actual, empirical data that you could share with us, not in a completely aggregated and anonymized way, but you could share trends with us. You could tell us what works and what doesn't work, maybe even by industry or size or things like that. So our customers were just begging us to sort of guide them on paying differently and paying better and kind of what the best practices were. And so for years, we've been using the data to do that. And then as most people know, recently this these terms AI and ML get thrown around. They're on every commercial you see. And I think people, a lot of companies do it a disservice because they kind of mix what data is and these other areas. We're very clear on the differences. I think there's a role for data, which is amazing. We've been doing it for many years. What's amazing about the AI ML side of it, the machine learning and artificial intelligence side of it, is to try to create models that kind of look at a tremendous amount of inbound data and can be sort of predictive and prescriptive in ways that the humans can't do. And so we have been building models just like that. And the one you mentioned is our attrition model. And it's something that, we've been really surprised by the accuracy of it, and just it's almost a little bit eerie because you get goosebumps. But very quickly, what it does is we have these data scientists that looked at all this incredible amount of data we had. They identified 55 different inputs of data that when fed into the machine learning model, the computers, do all their thing and they figure out the risk or the propensity that one of your sales reps is going to leave. And so it will look at, if you have 1,000 sales reps, it'll look at all the reps and it'll kind of plot them on two axes. One axis is their actual performance, which is known. So are they at 80% of their number or 120% of their number? And the other axis is their likelihood of leaving. And so if you look at that very quickly, you look at all those dots and you see any dots that are in the top right quadrant, that means you have high performers that are at risk of leaving. And that's not very intuitive sometimes, right? You think that your high performers are happy, they're making lots of money, they're never going to leave. And so what this model does is it will literally highlight people for management to say, hey, this person is at risk of leaving based on this machine learning model. And we've rolled it out in our own company. We've rolled it out with some of our customers. And the thing that's been amazing about it is it's not the people you think, right? All of a sudden it popped up, and our number one rep in Europe was in the far top right, quadrant. And I was blown away by that. I was like, why would this guy leave? He's happy. He's making great money. And when we drilled down, before we could even get to him, he resigned. And that's why I say you kind of get those chills when you realize how accurate these models can be. And so anyway, we're helping our customers with these kinds of models to help them identify things before. If I had seen that model 3 months earlier, I could have potentially saved that person. And the cost of losing a top sales rep or anybody to replace them and the ramp up period to get them back live is so high that these models can be extremely beneficial to the business.
Wow, what a great story. I see what you mean. It's very spooky.
Yeah.
But a huge thank you for coming on and joining me today. But before I do let you go, I'm quite conscious we've covered a lot of ground today and a lot of great areas, and there's going to be a few people listening where your words really resonated with them. So what's the best way that they can find you guys online, and also maybe even reach out and contact a member of your team if they've got any questions about our conversation today?
Absolutely. And this is what we do for a living, so we'd love to help anybody who is interested. The good news is, we've been around for 14 years, and we're a top company in the top company in the space, so we're pretty easy to find. The only nuance is that we spell Xactly without the E in front. So if you just type in Xactly, you're going to be able to find us very, very easily. Our website is exactlycorp.com. If you want to speak directly to us, you can send me an email at ceo@exactlycorp.com, and I'll be happy to speak directly with you or connect you with the right person in your area that can have a good conversation. And then finally, I'm pretty available on LinkedIn, who's also one of our customers. We love LinkedIn. They've been a customer for over 10 years, and so I'm pretty easy to find there as well, and happy to have a conversation there as well. So we're pretty easy to find, and we'd really love to talk to anybody we can. Well,
like I said a few moments ago, we covered so much ground. You told so many great stories today that will mean a lot, that a lot of people will really resonate with. So I cannot thank you enough for taking that time to come and join me today and share that story. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Neil. Really enjoyed it.
I loved Chris's interesting point of view on where the industry is heading, and genuinely believe that there is a huge missed opportunity for incentives. And not only the value they provide to employees, but also how they can be applied to shape behaviours and motivations that can actually impact a company's bottom line. And it might seem obvious to me, Chris, and indeed everybody listening, but this school of thought is only just beginning to take root with major brands today. And Chris actually thinks that we're entering this new era where companies will need to think about compensating people differently. And so much of what he said really resonated with me. And it seems that here in the UK, we're a little bit behind on things like that. For example, my gas and electricity was going to go up an additional £40 per month. So I rang my current provider and pretty much said, look, I've been with you guys 5 years. You're now putting my prices up by £40 a month. And yet I've seen that you're offering new customers the same price as I'm already on. Where's your incentive? To which they said, sorry, sir, company policy. That's the only deals we've got for you as an existing customer. So what do you think I did? Of course, I've now waved goodbye to them and gone somewhere else. And it doesn't compute with me at all how many companies don't even try to keep existing customers, particularly when it's much more efficient to keep existing customers than new ones, because typically those offers you sign up for to get a new customer is a loss leader, hoping that they will keep you at the end of it. But I digressed a little bit there, didn't I? I went on one of my rants about my own personal household bills. But what a great guest Chris was today for actually getting us talking about things like this. So a big thank you for him coming on. But now, of course, over to you. Yes, you. You didn't think you were just going to slope off, did you? Listening to me rant about my household bills and Chris sharing his story. The way this podcast works is we share each other's stories. And that's why at the end of every episode, I encourage you to email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. Anything that resonated with you today, let me know. Or if you've got a different side of the argument, I want to hear that too. And you can also get me on Twitter and Instagram, which is just my name, Neil C. Hughes. So keep those questions coming in, and also those iTunes reviews too. And I'm also interested in your views on Spotify going after the podcast market today. As I record today's episode, they've just announced that they're acquiring Gimlet and Anchor for an incredible $200 million. Seems like there's interesting times ahead for podcasts. And remember, you can also listen to this podcast on Spotify. But you guessed it, we've reached the end of the line again. That's it for today's episode. But a genuine thank you from me for tuning in today. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow. But until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.